How about let's check in on the state of Florida? Because it's been an interesting 2024 and 2025 for our folks out there in the Sunshine State. And we did a segment yesterday talking about the importance of Miami getting a quarterback in Carson Beck, which is absolutely true. But the reason why it's so important outside of Miami having a dude that can throw the football around is Miami and the surrounding cities in the state of Florida. The state of Florida, I believe, is the most talent-rich state when it comes to high school talent. I read you a stat yesterday. 50 of the 314 first-round picks in recent history have come from the state of Florida, all right, going into last year's draft. So to put it bluntly, if you win the state and you can be a team that keeps top talent home, you have, I think, more than what you need to go compete for national championships. Like, how often did we see those Nick Saban Alabama teams be absolutely stacked with talent from the state of Florida? Amari Cooper, dudes like that. I mean, Derrick Henry. Like, that was, I think, a massive part of why those teams had success, because they won the state of Florida. Imagine if a team could win the state of Florida and be from the state of Florida and keep top talent home. I think it would kind of shake things up a bit. So let's go team by team here. I want to go through Florida, Miami, and FSU here alike. Florida is that contestant in your favorite reality TV show that they were about to be voted off the island, man. Like, it was dark there for a second, especially post A&M. We're like, hey, man, is Billy Napier getting fired? There were videos out there. We did one ourselves here on this channel of who would be the next head coach at Florida, because we were all just so sure of ourselves that Billy Napier was done. He was cooked. And then things started to turn. Started to get some momentum. DJ Lagway gets rolling. You start to talk about not just what the future is, but what the right now is for Florida and how they're playing right now, and finishing the year on fire, and finishing with 3 wins, 2 with overranked opponents, and 1 over your rival at FSU. Like, it very quickly went from, oh, Florida's getting voted off the island, Billy Napier's gone, to, hey, man, they might make a run at this thing. This might be America's sweetheart right here. Might get a lot of votes and find themselves into the finale, and that could be Florida when it comes to the finale being winning the state of Florida. You have what you need in a lot of ways, I think, at quarterback. I don't think anybody's arguing that. DJ Lagway, depending on how you feel about Lenora Sellers and Garrett Nussmeier, could make a case for him potentially being the best quarterback in the SEC next year. Look at the recruiting rankings. Florida had the highest ranked class out of any team in the state. There's some momentum there. So if they can capitalize on that and just keep this positive trajectory and ascend up, like Florida, all bets are off. I'll also say this. People talk about SEC bias and all that. Recruits, they also have SEC bias. They also want to go play for teams that are playing in the most difficult conference in America with the best NFL draft record in America. Like, if you can be the team in the state of Florida and be in the SEC, in the Florida Gators, that would be a very strong asset to have for yourself here moving forward into 2025 and beyond. Miami is at a very interesting spot because it's been a positive trend every year for Mario Cristobal. I mean, they won 5 games and then win 7 games, a knee away from winning 8, neither here nor there. And they win 10 games. And so on paper, you're like, okay, I see this thing climbing. I see the vision here. But last year, winning 10 games, when you looked at the margins, it's like, man, Miami squeaked out some of these games, man. Like, Miami, Cam Ward put the JanSport on and backpacked them all the way to a win in some of these spots. The Cal game comes to mind. The Va Tech game comes to mind. Like, you wonder a little bit for Miami, hey, was last year as good as it gets? I'm not saying it's the case, but I'm saying you wonder that. So now with them grabbing Carson Beck, I think we're going to have the proper equation to ask that question. Is Miami a one-hit wonder, or are they going to be set up for success to kind of be a mainstay in this thing when it comes to how they're competing on the field? Because they were going to recruit, I think, at a high level for the most part every single year with Mario Cristobal being there. But remember when, like, Jack Harlow put out What's Poppin'? Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, man. Remember that dropped? Like, 1, who is this dude? 2, the song is great. 3, is this like the last time I'll hear from this guy? Jack Harlow obviously did what he did and put together some solid projects. And the bottom line is he's relevant. Will Miami be relevant going forward? Or is this a one-year banger, and we appreciate the banger that it was with Cam Ward and company, but like, hey, that's kind of the ride, and we appreciate you having fun on it with us. I'm curious to see. But I do think with them, again, landing Beck and then changing their defensive coordinator and probably, I would imagine, going to work here in the portal as well in the spring cycle in addition to what they did this past cycle, I think Miami will be in position from an ingredients perspective to continue on what they did this past season. Now, Florida State's a tricky one because you got 2 sample sizes. You got the year where they go win the ACC and go undefeated. The Georgia game is what it is. But then you have this past season where you go 2-10 on the heels of an undefeated regular season. Doesn't usually work that way, right? Usually you see a team with a big brand like Florida State take momentum, have success the year after they have success, and just keep building, and then you're off to the races, and Florida State's that team in the state. I can't help but feel a little bit like this. Florida State, while last year was an embarrassment, it was awful in every single sense. You missed on a lot of portal guys, I think, and it was just a bad deal overall. There's a difference, I think, between a character from a movie truly being eliminated and then being movie dead. Like y'all that watch Lord of the Rings, you know what I'm talking about? Gandalf the Grey falls off a cliff, but you don't see the body, man. That's movie dead. He's not really dead. As far as I'm concerned, we don't see the body of Florida State right now. Was it a bad year? Sure. 2-10 is awful, man. There's no way around that. There's no possible way to co-sign what happened last year. But I think there might be some movie dead to Florida State. I'm not telling you they're going to win the state of Florida or they're going to win the national championship, but I am saying, like, okay, I don't question Mike Norvell as a coach. I do think that they will probably recalibrate how they operate in the portal and hopefully have more success there. They have already grabbed, I would believe, one of the better play callers in the sport, and Gus Malzahn, who was previously a head coach in the state at UCF, and now he's going to be your OC. You double down on that. I just mentioned the portal. You go get Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, who cooked you last year when you played him on the other side, and you grab Deuce Robinson, former 5-star, and you have a top 20 recruiting class. So it's not all bad. All I'm saying, I'm not trying to sell false hope or deal some copium out here, but all I'm saying is I don't know for sure that we see the body from Florida State. If we have a 3-win, 4-win year next year for Florida State, then yeah, they're not movie dead, they're just dead when it comes to that whole experience in the confines of like that stretch of time. But I would be surprised if that were the case totally. All right, so we'll see what happens there with Florida State. But a lot going on in the state, man. A lot going on in the state. We do this probably, I would say, around once a year just because of how stacked the state of Florida is when it comes to high school talent. It's important to keep a pulse on those teams in state because I think they have a a major key, if you will, shout out DJ Khaled, to controlling the college football playoff picture.